Yo, welcome everybody. I hope you're having a great day. Now, if you've been watching any of my live streams lately, you've been seeing me using this fireballer, but it's a little bit different than the average fireballer. I actually have a couple of crazy endgame rune words, one of which is the Phoenix Shield. So let's go ahead and jump into this guide and showcase and take a look exactly what I'm using on this. Now we'll start off jumping into the stats, and I will mention I use this for magic finding, trying to complete my holy grail, so I need at least some magic finding on this character. Now, as we jump into the gear later, just know there are definitely things, other options, and I even swap around different options depending on where I'm going out and farming. So let me know any of the ways that you would change the build around or like to use it down in the comment section. But first of all, we do just enough strength to wear our gear, pretty standard max Vita build, so everything else goes into vitality, but nothing into energy or into dexterity. You notice my resistances are terrible, just absolutely terrible. I change the gear around and get the resistance better depending on where I'm going if I need it. So right now I have it set up for max magic find, and because of the redemption aura you get on the Phoenix Shield that I'll show you in a little bit, this doesn't turn out being a problem almost anywhere. But occasionally, if you go into certain places, I will go ahead and maybe we'll pull off like the Sunder Charm or get some stuff to stack up some res. But just mainly this is a max Vita build, and just to show you what everything ends up landing at, we have 317% magic find right here. We have 108 FCR. You need 105 to get over that breakpoint. And for everything else, it's not super important, but we do have this 317% damage to fire seals and minus 28 enemy fire resistance, which we can get that even more when we go over some more of the options when we take a look at the gear. So now we'll jump and look at the skill tree, the next most obvious right here. 1-point wonder into frozen armor, pretty obvious for almost every build. When we go to the lightning tree, we've got the 1-point wonders over on this side as well. We've got telekinesis, we've got teleport, and we have static field. Now, you do end up, if you're incredibly high level like me, I believe this was a 94, 95 sorceress, you do have a bunch of points left over. You could actually make this an energy shield sort of build, kind of, sort of, but I ended up not doing that. When we go over to the fire skill tree, this is where almost all the points are going. So this is a fireballer, so we want to max out fireball. We want to max out its synergies, and of course fire mastery. So there's 4 different skills. We want to max out all of them. There's firebolt, I already said fireball. We've got meteor, and we've got the fire mastery. Another option for this, some people love using hydra, so I actually put all my remaining points into warmth. So there's like with the redemption aura and then warmth, it's nonsense how much your mana stays completely full all the time. You could go ahead and put those points down into hydra. It does get synergies from both fireball and firebolt, and you already got the fire mastery maxed out. So if you wanted to spend the time to throw down a bunch of traps instead of shooting fireballs and then to shoot the fireballs after, depending on what you're doing, you can go ahead and do that. But for the way that I use this particular build, everything dies in like 1 or 2 fireballs that hits them. You get the area of effect from the explosion, so I felt that hydras was not needed. So next up, the most interesting part, the part that everybody loves to see, and that is the gear, the way this is set up. Now, remember, I specifically have this gear on to try to get a little bit more magic find. You want to balance out if you're trying to magic find to find better gear based upon kill speed and the actual amount of magic find. And I run this on players 7 with this setup right here and kill all the regular monsters in 1 or 2 shots. Not exactly a boss killer, but I go around in terror zones and even places like the Cast Sanctuary and stuff like that. So first up, I have the Istid Oculus. Now this has 80% magic find. Great option for any sorceress. There's going to be a bunch of other options like Heart of the Oak. Then you can get even more res. You get a little bit more FCR, but you lose all of that magic find. So I decided to go with this. I didn't need the extra resistance, and I didn't really need the extra FCR. I love Istid Oculus. Over on the shield, we already mentioned it, the Phoenix Shield. One of the biggest reasons, level 10 redemption aura. That's the same thing you use on Paladin if you ever played a Hammerden. And what it does is it like essentially sucks the life and mana from the dead bodies after you kill the monsters. So it replenishes all your life and mana all the time. Fire Absorb is on there, saving you from, fire damage. So even though the fire res we had was pretty low, you got some Fire Absorb on here to kind of help you out. But that redemption aura, the minus enemy fire res is awesome on that. Now up here we've got the Shaco, the Harlequin's Crest, 74 more mana, and it's just awesome all around magic find piece of gear. There is obviously the helmet Flickering Flame, which I do throw on from time to time, depending on where I'm going, what I'm doing. So you go ahead and get that fire aura, resist fire aura on there. You've got your minus enemy fire res as well, increasing your damage there as well. But for general magic find purposes, I go ahead and go with the Harlequin's Crest. Now in the amulet, I have a 2 with an 8 FCR, 30 to strength, which is pretty huge. You could get away if you got over like a 15% FCR on here, you could get away with throwing on different rings. But I unfortunately do not, so this is the best option I have for amulets. Also, sometimes I'll throw on Amaras, depending, and maybe swap some stuff around depending on what gear I'm using. You could throw on Amaras, have that more all-res if you really want that survivability higher. Down on the gloves for a Fireballer, Mage Fists are the go-to. You get the 1 to skill, and the FCR mana regen, obviously. On the rings here, I got 1 Stone of Jordan and 2 Stone Jordans. Now, if you did throw on that Amaras, you could go ahead and throw on an FCR ring, boom, get over the breakpoint, and get the all-res up here. That's a choice you got there, but I went ahead and took the skills and the mana here on the Stones of Jordan. Arachnid's Mesh, very obvious choice here at the belt. I would say this has got to be the best choice because you kind of need the FCR, to be perfectly honest. Since you don't have the Spirit Shield on, you lose a bunch of FCR over on that side. So getting the Arachnid's Mesh here is super important. And on boots down here, I got War Travelers. Obviously, you can make a res with rare boots that have some all-res on them. Well, by all-res, I mean tri-res. So you can make it up that way. And, you know, a bunch of other options at boots, tons of them. Now, on the armor here, in order to get to the breakpoint, you kind of need to go with Skin of the Viper Magi. Maybe if you go down to the lower breakpoint, you could go ahead and throw on a different armor. But Topaz, Skin of the Viper Magi, get a little bit more all-res there. You've got your Magic Find, so there it adds up. Over on swap here, we've got Call to Arms, and of course the Spirit, super standard over there. And then down in the inventory, we've got Eads over here, Torch and Annie. If you can get your hands on them, please do if you can. And then we've got Fire Skillers, Fire Skillers, Fire Skillers. And then I've got a Sunder Charm. Depending on where you're going, maybe you don't need a Sunder Charm. I went ahead and threw one in here for the build guide. That'll be up to you. That's why the fire res was so incredibly low. And then down here, we've got Magic Find Charms. Now, if you want to make up resistances, you could pull out a couple of these Scalers, perhaps. Throw in some 15 all-res charms, or maybe individual charms that are like 30% or the high percentages to an individual resistance and make them up there. Or same thing for the small charms down here. Now we'll go ahead and look at the Mercenary here, and this is the setup I decided to go with. I decided to go ahead with this Prayer Merc right here that will give you a slight amount of regenerate life. But along with that also, we have the Cleansing Aura that go ahead and get rid of your different curses and poison or whatever faster with that Cleansing Aura on. But also, if anyone doesn't know, or you didn't remember, or you forgot about it, when you have you actually get a Prayer Aura type of deal from the Cleansing Aura. So you kind of get the same situation from when you're rocking this particular type of build on an Energy Shield Sorceress. So it'll actually replenish your life at about the same speed as most poison actually takes your life away. That's the reason why I went ahead and did this setup right here with the Cure and the Prayer Merc. Now, because you don't get your life leech from your helmet like you would from your Tal Rasha's Mask or your Indulged Visage, you got to get it somewhere else. We've got Chains of Honor down here. You also get all res, and you have leech on this particular armor. So that really obviously helps out the survivability. And to increase our damage, we went ahead and threw the Infinity over here. So that'll minus the enemy fire res from the Conviction Aura here on the weapon, and obviously it's just a great weapon as well. So before we go, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe up if you like this build, you like this video, and don't forget, go down in the comments and let me know any of the variations that you really like to do for these particular types of builds. Peace out, fellas, and keep slaying.